In a small mountain village surrounded by mist and pine lived Aiden. He wasn't the type to draw attention. He didn't argue when others mocked him. He didn't chase after every challenge just to prove himself. While others competed to be seen, Aiden preferred to listen. He would spend his mornings by the river, sketching the shapes of the clouds and studying how the current moved. The villagers often teased him. "Why do you sit there all day?" they'd laugh. "Real strength is out there, in the noise, in the fight." But Aiden would just smile and reply softly. The river flows quietly, but it shapes the rocks. One day, a messenger from the royal city arrived. He announced that the king was seeking an apprentice, someone to serve as a guardian of the royal archives. It wasn't just an honor. The apprentice would learn from the wisest scholars and earn a fortune of gold. Hundreds of young men signed up, each convinced they could outshine the others. And when Aiden stepped forward to join them, laughter filled the courtyard. Him? The boy who talks to rivers. He won't last an hour. Aiden said nothing. He simply bowed and took his place. The king's advisor stood tall and declared, "There will be 3 tests, one of strength, one of observation, and one of wisdom. Only those who balance courage with patience will succeed." The first test took place in a vast valley of heavy winds. The challenge: carry a flame across the valley without letting it die. Many rushed ahead, shielding their lanterns with trembling hands. Some ran too fast, and their flames flickered out in seconds. Others shouted in frustration, blaming the wind. But Aiden didn't run. He crouched low, watching how the wind moved between the rocks. He stepped carefully, matching his rhythm to the breeze. When he finally reached the end, his small flame was still alive, glowing steady against the storm. The advisor nodded. The boy moves slow, but his flame never fades. The second test was held in the royal garden, a labyrinth of mirrors and vines. The goal: find a hidden golden key within 10 minutes. The others dashed through the paths, shouting to one another, bumping into glass walls, confusing their reflections with reality. But Aiden walked slowly, noticing the sunlight. He realized that only one mirror reflected real light, the rest were illusions. Following the warm glow, he reached a quiet corner, lifted a cluster of vines, and found the golden key resting beneath. He brought it back to the advisor before anyone else could escape the maze. "How did you find it so quickly?" the advisor asked. Aiden smiled faintly. "When your mind is still, the world reveals what's hidden." Finally came the third test, the test of wisdom. Before the king himself, each competitor was asked the same question: what gives a person true power? Some shouted, strength. Others boasted, gold. A few said, knowledge. The king listened, unimpressed. Then Aiden stepped forward. He bowed deeply and said in a calm voice, understanding. The king leaned closer. Explain. Aiden lifted his eyes and said, strength can break walls, but understanding can open doors. Gold can buy loyalty, but understanding earns trust. And knowledge can fill the mind, but understanding fills the heart. The hall fell silent. The king smiled. You have spoken truth. The next morning, a bell rang across the kingdom. The king's decree was read aloud. The winner of the royal challenge, the guardian of the archives, is Aiden, the quiet one. The crowd murmured in disbelief. Some felt humbled. Some felt ashamed for mocking him. But the old monk who lived by the temple simply nodded and said, still waters run deep. They do not boast. They move mountains in silence. Years later, Aiden became known as the wise keeper of the archives. He taught not through orders, but through example. He showed that calmness isn't a lack of fire, it's knowing where to burn. So if anyone ever tells you that you're too calm, too quiet, too slow, don't let their noise drown your truth. Stillness is power, patience is strategy, and silence is focus sharpened by peace. You don't need to shout to make history. You just need to move with purpose. Because success doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. If this story inspired you, give it a like. Comment below. Have you ever been underestimated for being too quiet? Your story might help someone find their strength. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that remind you the loudest voice isn't always the strongest.